Alrighty, we're back looking at the Season 10 Demons. Tavern Tier 1, Tavern Tier 2, no big changes. Tavern Tier 3, no big changes. Tavern Tier 4 is where we start getting some new things. First is this new Ashen Corruptor. After your hero takes damage, rewind it and give minions in the tavern 1/1 this turn. What this is gonna kind of behave like is a mix between Archimond and the Betty, or not Betty, the Bodyguard from the current season. So this is a way for you to buff your shops, and it also works as you're rewinding. The next new minion is the bounding flesh Fellstar. Sorry. Refresh the tavern with an extra tavern tier spell. It costs health instead of gold. This is kind of just a cycle unit. Rest of the Tavern Tier 4, obviously Percussionist and Malchazar are still going to be very good, especially because there's a rewind on 4 now. What's really good is the rewinds on 4. We did lose Archmon, so we don't have that insane value, but that at least gives us some, like an earlier rewind. Next, Batty Terror Guard was moved down to 5. Obviously, the stats were rewind, but the stats on this didn't really matter. Really, it's the effect that it's consuming. So the synergy right now is going to be Ashen and Batty Terror Guard, where you want to take damage to buff the shop, and then after you buff the shop, you want to use Batty Terror Guard to consume the shop. Some of the other new minions here: Felfire Conjure at the end of your turn, your tavern spells that give stats, create an extra 1/1 this game. Um, Honestly, I don't think this card's going to be that great. You know, you're going to need some type of like end of turn, like Drakari kind of stuff, and I just don't see that really becoming insane. You're probably okay, like if you triple into this, just taking this because it's not a terrible stat line, and it does provide a effect, but it's not something you would keep on your board super long. Shadow Dancer is a new one, a tier 5/5/2. Death Rattle get a staff of it in Enrichment. This is another one that like if you triple into it, you're not too upset. Unfortunately, the stat line is pretty bad. But you know this is a good unit to kind of finish on in the end game, in the not end game but the mid game, to get some extra stats. And then Tavern Tier 6, the new minion here, Dream Inquisitor. Whenever you cast a tavern spell, deal 1 damage to your hero and give your demons 1/1. So where this really becomes a really strong combo is when you have the Ashen Corruptor, which is whenever you take damage, rewind it and buff the tavern. Batty Terror Guard is whenever you play a spell, you get to consume those buffed minions. And then Dream Inquisitor is whenever you play a spell, you're dealing damage to yourself. So these kind of create your 3 minion core of Ashen Corruptor, Terror Guard, and Dream Inquisitor. And what's probably the best about this is that you buy these in order. Like you're gonna buy a 4 drop before you buy a 5 drop to buy a 6 drop. You can't really run Dream Inquisitor without the Ashen Corruptor. You can't run the Batty Terror Guard without the Ashen Corruptor. And you could potentially do Dream Inquisitor without the Batty Terror Guard, but it doesn't really do much for you. So these are going to be your 3 minions. You're probably going to have a Bran, and then the rest of your minions are going to be probably like 1 Malchazar. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, Bran 5. And then probably like just finishing with Shadow Dancer, any type of tavern spell generation type stuff. Um, and that's going to be your like 5 minion core with 2 flex spots. You're going to be buying all your percussionists. You're going to be buying the Fell Stalker. Um, yeah, you probably cycle the Tardy Traveler. You'll buy Jaraxxus. Jaraxxus can now give your minions Divine Shield. I'm assuming they didn't change the potential ones that you can get. I'm assuming there's still the Shield of Legion's the big one to get Divine Shield. So as long as that's still around, like you're able to get that utility. So that's what I kind of imagine for the Demon Core being. Um, what's really good about that is it's not very tavern, or it's not like it doesn't require a trinket for that really big scaling core. So rather than looking at demon specific trinkets, the big stuff that you're probably going to look at is anything that generates spells is going to be very strong with the demon core. I guess one thing is like spellcraft ones don't really matter, but um, any of the like actual spell generating type spells. So something like Spellbook, because you have the brand, you're gonna be generating a lot of gold. This can give you extra tavern spells, and play pretty well that way. Um, just trying to see if there's anything that sticks out. There was a couple of new demon spells that we or trinkets that are probably worth calling out. The first one is the Implicator Lesser Trinket. This is get a false implicator. Your demons always consume the highest health minion in the tavern. This is probably not terrible as a lesser trinket because it synergizes with the baddie because it is a consume effect. So you kind of guarantee that you're getting the good consumes out of the way, and you can cycle a little bit earlier every shop. Next one, Impulsive Portrait. Get an Impulsive Trickster. Your Impulsive Trickster death rows target adjacent minions. I don't see this being that crazy. I think this is actually like a dragon trinket with like something like Terragosa or the poet. I don't see it being that crazy in a actual like demon comp. Let's just check to make sure there's nothing else that we're missing. Nether Pendant is back. Minions in the tavern have +1/+1 upgrades every time your hero takes damage outside of combat. This one's not too bad. I generally found that it was okay at kind of just stabilizing, and giving you like that scaling. With this, like you would definitely have to run the Wrath Weaver, in your comp and play like cycle your demons that way. Well, I guess one thing that was worth calling out is in that core that we were talking about, Wrathweaver isn't necessary. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit better to buff the shop if you have the Wrathweaver, but you don't necessarily need it if you have the Dream Inquisitor. So Dream Inquisitor is actually going to be cycling out your one drop unless you have a reason to deal more damage to yourself. Pilgrim sticker isn't terrible. It's a 2 cost for your demon to cost health instead of gold. If you have the early Ashen or you have a early Silverwinder, this one gives you value right away. But I don't think this is actually like crazy by any means. It's just a okay like economy unit. Obviously it pays for itself. Next one, Rewinder Trinket. Get a Soul Rewinder, Wrath Weaver. Your Soul Rewinders also gain attack. I actually think this is going to be a little bit more relevant than it normally was. The biggest reason being is that it's a good way to stabilize. It also kind of gives you that early uh, synergy between the two. And remember, the core for the demons doesn't require trinkets. So your lesser trinket's a little bit less important. So having a stabilizing lesser trinket isn't going to be bad. Selfless portrait's another one to look at, just because it's making it so the selfless. I'm assuming what this reads, and it's hard to tell. I haven't seen it used, but it sounds like it makes it so that this will be making it so it's a battle cry and a death rattle. So in this way, you can like cycle selflesses and give minions Divine Shield that way, and Divine Shields are always very good with demons. Next one, Eye of Sargeras. Every fourth card you buy costs health instead of gold. Obviously, this is another one that's like, it can potentially get you a lot of value. However, you need the brand to be generating a lot of cards and a lot of value. Otherwise, it's not going to be quite as good. Um, Keep going through. There's a couple of obviously like the shot buff type stuff and some other spell generation type stuff, but I think those are the main ones to call out for demons is really any tavern spell generating and the couple of ones. I think the biggest thing with demons will be just trying to get through the mid game. Generally, demons have a kind of like interesting curve where they're good in the early game if you have like the Wrath Weaver and Silverwinder. They're generally a little bit weaker from tavern tiers like 3 through 5, and then they become late game monsters when they're able to consume a lot of the shop. So that's kind of like the prediction for how it works, and you can kind of even see that that's kind of how these minions work. Like Ashen Corruptor by itself isn't going to be amazing. Terror Guard starts letting you stabilize, and then Dream Inquisitor is where you start going crazy. So that's kind of my prediction for how demons are going to be working in season 10. Thanks. See ya.